doesn't give you.
Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome in. We're gathering here again with Susan, and she is uh, an amazing, um, I guess you could say medium, but not really a medium. She hears very clearly the Autist collective, working through her higher self and the spirit selves of her children, specifically Sammy, Samantha, who's beyond verbal. And so that's just a little brief piece of Susan, and welcoming back, of course, Kat, who has been um, prevalent in uh, so many things. I'd like to say the priestess community, understanding magical properties. One could say witchcraft, but without labeling things, I'd like to go into really the concepts of magic, magical properties, which really bring us back into who and what it is we are. And my name is Chastity, and I do healings and readings as well. So here we are, the three of us coming together. And what has been coming in lately, it comes in pretty fast. Everything comes and goes and then comes back around again. But we have been looking at what's happening with consciousness streams of the gods and goddesses. This has been really coming in strong and prevalent. And what's happening in, we were just chatting about the deep waters or the abyss coming up. And so the darkest pieces, you could say, of Mother, you could call them the darkest pieces of our consciousness. The overlays and the twisting makes me think of it's actually a Maroon 5 song, but the song is called Sunday Morning. And one of the pieces says, you twist to fit the mold that I am in. And so it feels like this twisting to fit into these little molds or these little captured pieces of who we are. And we're unwinding, breaking the molds, if you will, and understanding these different consciousness streams that have been from time and time and time again. And we are in a position to, gosh, it's not even about transmutation. Some of it is transmutation, some of it is transmigration, but a lot of it is integration of
Yeah.
other selves and really just learning how to break out of these molds and understand the stories that we have uh, lived by, lived with, or lived as. And so, with that, one of the things that's been coming up for all of us has been Medusa. And so I think let's dive into this. I'll present this with, I've seen two presentations of Medusa. I think that one is that she was a victim of uh, being, she, Poseidon forced himself on her. I'll be careful with the way that I word this. And
Hmm.
Athena punished her for that. And so her beautiful locks of hair then were turned into snakes. And then so there's that. And that's just brief. And then there's another version that she always was a monster and she lured men into her cave, really just to kill them and turn them to stone. And so to me, this is looking, ooh, it's no matter which way you look at it, it's kind of an attack on women or fits a mold that women are put into, two different, completely different molds. But we'll start there, and whichever one of you wants to go from here would be fantastic.
Well, Kat, yeah, maybe you want to talk from the priestess training of what you've had, gods and goddesses, of the mythology of Poseidon, the mythology of Medusa. um, maybe even Athena and Perseus who cut
Mm.
her hair off, head off. Maybe we can start there because I certainly
Yeah,
had to remind myself by looking it up, but you know more, so
definitely a lot of tangents with this goddess. Um, she's definitely a being that calls out to women primarily, but anybody that has experienced some form of, um, I don't know what the proper terminology that wouldn't get censored, but when your physical, spiritual boundaries are attacked, primarily females. She's in the Wicca and witchcraft communities. She's definitely a source of strength. And it has felt that over the last few years that um, she calls more because she is reclaiming or vindicating herself because, as Chastity had mentioned, one of the stories is that she was punished for being violated. And that's actually kind of a common story, at least with Olympian and some of the Roman gods that I've encountered. Um, when you think of snakes and your hair being turned into snakes, there's so many cultural references where hair is an antenna, it's a source of power. And a lot of cultures will not cut hair because it affects your personal power, your connection with the divine. And then you layer that with the image of serpents, and serpents have been um, acknowledged worldwide culturally, at least in the ancient cultures, as a source of transformation, of magic, of healing, of power. It's only relatively more recent that snakes have been vilified, because they crawl on the ground, they have no legs. But if you look at Nordic culture, belief systems, and others, even First Nations, there's definitely a lot of snake power in the venom, even there's power in it. So Medusa, she seems to be a figure of empowerment, both for males and females. And
yeah,
removing her head is also significant because many cultures also viewed that the head was the seat of the soul. And you remove that, and you were removing power. But in the stories, her head even retained power even after death.
yeah, that's right. Because turning men into stone in particular. I mean, it's so. I mean, I was surprised to find that the story of Medusa is so complex, because of the snakes, the serpent. We talk about Kundalini, bringing life force from the earth, and it activates us. And you think about the snake in the Adam and Eve story, of tempting Adam, and then casting Eve as kind of manipulative, let's say. So it's so complex, and that's what it feels like has been going on, is the complexity of who we are, um, the personality archetypes, I like to call it, that has been coming up, the stories that are, like, I want to say, even woven into the very genes of our physical body. Um, and it's a lot. One of the things I was feeling yesterday, which is, I feel like it's uh, revealing, and there's an energy of exposing truth in very minute kinds of way is the Kuiper belt, on the outside of our solar system, and the energy of it really powerfully coming in. And what I could feel from Sammy was that if you imagine how many little pebble and stones and rocks that the Kuiper belt is made out of, that like all of that is transmitting this light to bring that up in our bodies. So it's not just and that very minute and small fractal detail. So it feels like it's going to affect the our cultures, the earth, and the outer reality and our structures, but also within our body. And I feel like that's kind of what we're getting at, is the complexity of these stories. Was she a victim? Was she not a victim? The male domination kinds of stories come up. The gods, have a very light and powerful, loving aspect, but also this shadow aspect. But so does the feminine. I was surprised to learn even that Pegasus came out of Medusa's body, as it's said after she was beheaded. And her blood even has the power to cure, but also then to kill. So, I think it's a lot of this polarity integration that what we're talking about, and down to the minute genetic level, because it comes down to that. But uncomfortable to hold, I feel like, and what's coming up in the body. So
it's like, what if we looked at Medusa as the astral gaze turned into itself? So like she's what if we look at her as being paralyzed without love, right? She's in a darkness, she's in the cave. So this is like, she's actually the reflection of the reversed mother then. And so when her head is cut off, which is a separation, it's that beheading, the child rises, her child rises. So that's kind of like what we talk about, is like the Christ rising within. And it's like her child, once the beheading happens, and this happened, I was doing a class and we were seeing this even in correlation with John the Baptist's beheading. So it's really interesting how this happens. And all of the sudden, life forces come with this beheading, you come alive, or something rises from outside of you. And so I think that, as we're cutting our own heads off, or as our heads are being cut off, what is rising out of this? Some people are actually turning to stone. In a sense, they're actually hardened, or their ways are sclerotic in their field, and they freeze just as they are, and are not able to then move beyond into the spiritual awarenesses. They can't use their you pull the card of contemplation. They can't there's no contemplation here of how to liberate oneself in the spiritual realms. And I think that it's really important what it is we're witnessing, not only with each other, but with ourselves. And how do we I'm just seeing a bunch of people like wrapped in blankets, like being warm, right? How do we keep the warmth and the imagination and the co-creation during such levels of confusion and destruction? Because she's used as a weapon and as a protection. So she's a protector and she's a killer, right?
Yeah. She's life, she's medicine, but she also means death or irreversible paralysis.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and then, yeah, go ahead. You'll keep going.
Yeah, she's a complex being with a very tragic origin type story. But even like in this day and age, I'm not surprised that beings like her, Lilith, they will call acolytes or neophytes pretty early in their studies, especially if they've come from a background with any form of trauma, because they offer healing and their own version of comfort without the judgment, but also they represent revenge too. And if you have unhealed trauma, one of your first things is wanting revenge. So these are beings that you should be careful with in working with. They are not your warm and fluffy ones.
Yes.
And even some of the Greek goddesses, like Athena, she's war and knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, her Hera, or even Aphrodite, they can be pretty nasty type of beings to deal with, even though they are viewed on the more positive side of things.
Yeah. And I think for myself, I've always seen the darker sides, and treaded lightly. As a matter of fact, treaded so light that I wouldn't communicate with any of these kinds of beings. Said thank you, but no thank you. I don't need your medicine. You know, I don't. I think it's important to know, for people to know where they're at. And if there is unhealed trauma, like you said, Kat, you have to have enough awareness to know that a powerful medicine can overtake you. And coming back from something like that is challenging.
You know, it also made me think of Perseus, poor Perseus in the story, you know, in a sense, because I mean, all of this, I think, is about power. You know, who has power? How do they wield power? How do we manage power? Which is about the human ourselves, as you know, for expressions of God's source. Then, then there's all this power that we're trying to understand in a way and manage. And so even Perseus, um, right? I'd forgotten. I mean, I read those stories when I was in like high school, but that he had been sent out on a quest to actually kill Medusa because of this king, Polydectus or whatever. Now wanted to kill him so that he could marry uh, Perseus's mother. So he's being used really as a tool um, for his own gain as a king. And you know, it just reminded me of the story that's playing out on the earth, right? With war, who are we sending out to fight these battles for these people um, that have the ultimate control? And they're really, even men at that level, you know, are being used, right? And so it's so, there's so much dynamic um, aspects to look at and be aware of in these stories because they're just like this. It's a dysfunctional family of gods.
I've been looking at Perseus as like the eye, or the Christ eye in action. He's like slaying illusions. There's something about how I see him as bringing just cutting through the crap. You know,
Literally.
I don't know. I don't know the voyage he had to go on, and the things he realized about himself during this pilgrimage, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity for the light to rise, I think, was pretty profound. But
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry. Oh,
Oh, God.
I was thinking of the Iliad and the Odyssey. When you go through those epics and you read the stories, um, there's so much metaphor or allegory in them. It's not just, you know, the black words or on white paper. There's a huge symbolic esoteric behind them. And um, I was just thinking of one of the figures, Circe, which she was abandoned on an island, and all the men that were trapped on her island were turned to pigs. She's known as like a goddess of witches, and in this is another story of like a revenge story where she's punished, but she has this ability. She turns men who come to the island to stone, or sorry, to pigs, kind of like Medusa, or you know, she has the ability, well, whether she wants it or not, to turn people to stone. And then you have the story of King Midas as well, who turned everything to gold. You know, dealing with gods, they have a weird sense of humor and
Mm.
abrupt sense of punishment or justice.
Mm,
But all of those stories have huge esoteric meaning behind them, and even spiritual alchemy
yeah.
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
Yeah.
those. I look at
Yeah.
them as the way our ancestors were interpreting the world. They lived so closely with the other ancestors and land spirits and things, and this was a way to understand and transfer knowledge through the ages.
Mm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
most people who pick up the Iliad and Odyssey now probably don't really dig much deeper into the real meanings.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we have lost our imagination along the way, you know, and that is the artistic creation of building ourselves into connecting to spirit. I don't know, something about that. While Kat was talking, all I kept hearing, it's overconsumption. That's overconsumption. So there's, I don't really know what that means, but I wanted to say it.
Mm.
Overconsumption. Uh, and that could maybe that just means too much of lower forms, too much materialism. I'm not sure how to take that, but that's what I was hearing.
Mm. There's a big theme of victim and victimizer coming up, you know, even with Perseus. Like, was he a victim or was he a victimizer? Was he a victim himself? You know what I mean? Trying to be used, but then he actually was able to um, slay the what do you call it? The quest by revealing the truth of what uh, uh, you know, the quest of what he had been sent out for to begin with, in a sense. And uh, for some reason, I've been thinking about the sword and the serpents this weekend. That's been coming up a lot. You know, the the sword of Isis. You know, I didn't really think about the sword. I guess it can be associated with the element of air. Uh, it has a level of precision, right? Versus like the snake and the serpent is much more kind of flexible. Um, but the sword and the spear is it's precise to cut through the um, like the BS, you know, or cut to the chase of what the truth is. Um, and so he was able to see the truth of what was happening to him and was able to turn the story around in his favor, in a sense. Um, but yeah, there's something about dealing with the truth of what we're seeing, and so is this kind of also reflective of what's going on the planet, that we have to look, you know, and it's like a spear coming in now and saying, okay, this is the bottom line truth. Like, can you look at it? Can you acknowledge what is happening on the planet and what how really the power structures have been even um, manipulating humanity, let's say, and I think part of this energy of exposure at all levels, uh, my sense was that it's going to continue to be a big theme, even through 2026, because we're getting down to very refined levels, even the genetics and what was manipulated, you know, um, and I bring that up because I feel it even deep in the body tissue, like down to the pelvic floor of and the root of our genes. Like I think we were talking a little bit about it through Telegram exchanges. Like, what was that? What was that snake head? What was that snake, Chastity, with the lion's
It's,
head?
oh, that was the Demiurge.
Yeah, from the
And it's
Demiurge.
the
What's
oh
Yal?
God, what's its name? Yaldabaoth,
Yeah.
Yaldabaoth. Um,
Yeah,
and that's what they say Sophia gave birth to. And Sophia being the goddess that is rising now, or at least in her awareness. I call Sophia wisdom, the greatest wisdom, yeah. And that story is about I may not know it as well as Kat may know it, but she thought she could create by herself, and so she did, and then she realized she made a mistake, and then this god that she created was just a god in his own right, and he then created the material world we live in. So we are living in
yeah,
the Demiurge, or the matrix of
hmm,
that creation. And so it is like, and if we're all, this is something to think about. If we're all supposed to be created in the image of God, and if this demiurge is the image we were created in, it's no wonder we're rising up from the ashes, or coming out from
yeah,
the depths of darkness, because if we're all a little piece of this, then we're rising up and to realize how then to balance, and then become uh, that divine union, reaching back to, be on the bosom, if you will, of our mother. Um, and when I see that, I of course see the Father holding her. So I know there's a big thing about mother right now, and Mother Sophia, this mother being, and I was just watching this gal that brings forth a lot of disclosure and information. Her name is Jessica Morocco, and she was talking. She does something with the ACIO records, but it's I don't know. Anyway, go check her out, her page out. She's been doing disclosure stuff for many, many years. And she was just talking also about this pattern she was seeing with mother, and was talking about these different movies that have come out, like AI mothers, and we're going into like all of this AI frequency, and this darkness is coming up. Like, where is it we're going to, and how are we? A lot of people are bringing forth this concept of mother without the concept of father. So we went from one
yeah,
side being far over into the father. Now we're going the other way, far over into the mother. And in actuality, I see the masculine actually holding the feminine. You can't have one without the other, and the support and love that
yeah,
is cradled and embodied. That's the only way. The warmth. That's the way that the fire is stoked, and the Christ itself, or the light in oneself, then rises, or the wisdom becomes the truth. Something like that.
yeah. Well, it's the integration of polarity. So then that is the tri-wave then, you know, we can't have, otherwise we'll end up back in the same boat of extreme polarity, the biowave system. And that's the fallen matrix, you know. I feel like Sammy's been showing me you have to look really deep. I mean, there was one card that kept coming up on this tarot deck, this goddess tarot deck I had recently gotten from Kat and Chastity that they were talking about. And I haven't used those kind of cards in a long time, but there was one where the eyes are kind of hidden. I can't remember which card it was right now, but and it just felt like you have to really look deep into the dark, into the darkest of mother, because there's a powerful alchemy there, right? That when we talk about, like, I feel like witchcraft, the esoteric knowledge, when it's kind of in there, there's a beheaded again, right? Not looking, not realizing the depth of the darkness from which created this body that we're currently in. You know, then we're not seeing the fullness of who we are, and so when we can really reattach, let's say, the head of Medusa, because I see those snakes as interdimensional, you know, kind of weaving through the body, and then also like going through the even the folds of the brain, you know, get to the cranial nerves on the top of the head, which then awakens our sensory system to that next higher level, you know. So I mean, these are like some important things. So when we talk about magic, you know, which we kind of started with, right? The wizard, the magic of the witchcraft, and the witchcraft, you know, makes me go you know, as well, that word. But there is wisdom in the esoteric knowledge of working with the elements, working with nature, the nature spirits, and we can't get away from that, because that is the mother, that is
That's what we
Sophia.
are. We are the elements.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't, that doesn't, that's not going to go away. And if we can't recognize that, then what are you left with? Right?
And work with it. Hmm. Work
Mhm.
with it.
Our bodies are comprised of the elementals. Our
Mhm.
blood has the undines.
Yeah.
Our breath has the sylphs. We have fire in us for passion and emotions.
Mhm.
You know, again, water, air, earth makes up our bones, our skin.
Yeah.
You know, so when we communicate with the elements and the elementals, we are like joining, I guess, with them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's I see that as something that AI, because we sort of touched on that AI cannot replicate at this time.
Hmm.
AI has its boundaries, and
Hmm.
even if they eventually create a physical vehicle for AI to move around, which I believe they already have,
Yes.
but it
Mm.
will still lack that connection, that interconnectedness, that
Yeah.
The soul.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I learned,
mm,
relearned or remembered how elemental we actually are. I had somebody on the table one time and I couldn't get something unstuck. I couldn't get it off of them, and I thought all the little healing tricks and things, that none of them were working. And then I heard, use your breath. And as a uh, massage therapist, I thought that's really creepy. Like, you're laying naked on my table and I'm going to start breathing on you, right? So I thought, oh gosh, here we go. Bear with me, right? And so uh, something different when I listened and understood who I am. It was incredible because it was a gentle breath that just needed to go right into, I think it was somebody's liver or kidney, one of the two. And all of the sudden, this gentle breath started unwinding what was stuck, and it was completely cleared from the body, and it was the air that needed to be adjusted in their field. And was like, you have got to be kidding. Show me more. And so starting to learn that, you know, you don't have to light a fire. You're not actually burning people. You're not having to drown them in water. It's who are we, and how do we work with what it is we have? And the healing capacities are incredible. I want to go back to this eye thing, the closed eyes or the asleep eyes or the not seeing. And like when you're talking about these snakes going multidimensionally, I see all these eyes. And it's interesting because I saw that in Greece when I was traveling there. Eyes everywhere, right? And then, of course, they've got the evil eye. And I learned about that. And you know what was so interesting is I heard from a local, if you were to wear the evil eye, which I've always been afraid of, I don't want the evil eye on me. I don't understand this. If you wear the evil eye, it puts asleep all evil eyes looking upon you or something like this. And so I put one on, and I'll be darned that things that were looking at me, looking in on me, things that I were blinded to, it was as if they fell asleep and a heaviness lifted off of me. And unfortunately, some things in my immediate field of people that I liked or cared about or whatever went absolutely batshit crazy,
Oh
right?
gosh.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is fun. So now I always wear an evil eye. I will not have one on. I recommend it for everybody because it truly does put them to sleep.
Wow.
It's powerful in its own right. And I don't know if it's because I visited there. I mean, I think no, but I mean, obviously I wouldn't have tried it if I weren't there. But it's powerful. What are we awakening? What are we asleep to? You know, something else I noticed there, and Kat, you saw this prior to me sensing it because I thought of you immediately. And I don't think we talked about it, at least openly here, but I was laying in the water, in the ocean, in the sea, I guess, the sea, and I was so scared. Like there was this fear that came, like bone fear. And I saw a shark, like a great white shark. But then it even went deeper into that Cetus monster. You know, is that what it's called? The monster, which is the one that was turned to stone by Medusa's head, right? So it's this deep, deep fear that is laying in the waters of our cellular interstitial tissue in our cells. Even the pericardium, you know, the fluid around the heart. And it's being agitated. It's you know, these fears are coming up in our bodies, but once we're right with the elements and know who we are, the most amazing healing can happen. It doesn't mean we're not going to be uncomfortable, that's for sure, but
now we have the 3-eye atlas that's
Yeah, I know, right?
close to us now, and people are calling it the 3-eyed atlas. And it's definitely causing ripples, I guess, in humans. I've noticed some changes in behavior, even social media, looking at how people are writing compared to, you know, a few months ago. But there's a mixture of fear and awe, and I guess NASA has shut down apparently when this comet, possibly spaceship, is so close to Earth, and geologists and astrophysicists and the like are upset because there's no images being sent to Earth, or at least not being released publicly. And the sentiment that I understood was that this rock or comet, or however you refer to it,
interstellar object,
interstellar object, yes, it is so close that there should be more awareness about what this one is. And there was something about a black swan event which I
Yeah.
think was determined, which was creating a volcanic activity. And yeah, we have like the fire waters of lava that are being activated. And then you also see that in humanity too, where people are just hair trigger reactive to certain things that there doesn't even seem to be an attempt to even just, take a break or take a breath and just step back and rethink. It's just immediate reaction.
Hmm. Hmm. They're losing their heads over it.
Yes, literally. Well, maybe
Literally.
not literally, but
Yeah.
yeah,
They're losing their shit, you know? I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's an amazing time. It's a crazy time, and then it's also an amazing time. We're talking on the day of a full moon, which feels, I mean, so powerful and significant. Um, and Chastity mentioned that contemplating card. Yeah, this is what I pulled today. I was showing them. So Sammy's been communicating to me through these tarot cards I was sharing with them. Like she's like, I can feel it. All right, now go get that deck, and like, okay, pull it out. So she's kind of like telling me every day, like what's going on with her. It's the weirdest thing. But this is, I guess Chang O. It's the number 9 card
Oh, and the
of
year is nine. Yes.
yeah, of contemplation.
Mhm.
And just to kind of in a more hopeful tone, what she's telling me and what I feel like is for all of humanity, because we're talking about genes and the demiurge and things like that. But um, so what, recently I've seen Sammy like as an empty vessel, like her body is just all lit up on the outside, and she's like, and I could feel a breeze going through this body, um, but through this colorful image of this Chang O. She's the moon goddess, and supposedly in the little description in the deck, it says that she was banished to the moon because she wanted to attain divinity. Um, so through this card, what she's showing me is okay. So she in the background is like all these stars, right? Just like in the banner here. Oh, and looks like comets here, right? Flying by. Um, that she came from the stars and she wasn't going to embody until the divine human was available. And so it's like the dress and all its colors, the multifaceted colors, it feels like our like the DNA, um, activating at very refined levels that uh, we are all really divinity. And she is embodying and watching from the stars in a sense as a higher self, watching the vessel being returned to its divinity, in a sense. And in this kind of awareness, then uh, it's bringing up all those shadows to me, it's bringing up all those shadows because the body is trying to purify itself to be that higher vibrational match for the soul and the spirit, you know. So with all this coming in and all the yuckiness that you might feel in the body and things coming up and things that you thought you healed and now what is this going on with Medusa? And because Medusa even, right, is the theme of, is the female a victim or is she powerful, um the power and the victim, same with Perseus, I feel like, you know, um, that as a male, even, are you a victim or are you a perpetrator? I mean, there's all these themes that
Mhm.
have plagued humanity, and how men and women, in a sense, have played that power game as feminine power and male power, and somehow we have to recognize that and integrate that to stop it, and recognize it for the stories. And I feel like with all these Greek gods and what's coming up is the drama of of these power games, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so I thought I'd add that to the mix because I could feel it kind of speaking to me. So
Yeah.
I said, okay, yeah,
I did find it interesting when I would hear both of you mention some deity, and that kind of those topics are definitely things that I'm very aware of, and I didn't really think of them too much in terms of spiritual alchemy. And but it does make sense that they are coming up more often, and their archetypes are coming up more often, because we have been told for so long that we are awakening, but we are also remembering things that were lost or cut off from us. And those beings represent so many important facets of even the human genome, the human characteristics, and our possibilities. So I'm not surprised really that they are showing up in non magical areas, because they represent so much. And they're showing up all over the world. And
Yeah.
I also feel too that as more not architecture, archaeological discoveries are made, especially Göbekli Tepe,
yeah,
as soon as they uncover more stuff, it feels like, oh, somebody else is starting to write more about this certain deity now, because this certain deity is showing up more often. And who this deity might be in Turkey may be different from who that deity is actually in Africa or in South America. So they just go by different names, but the characteristics
Are the same.
they're all the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for bringing that part up, because that's
yeah,
really interesting. People um, don't make the connections, and so they think that there are all these different ones, and then within the different ones in the one, there's even flip sides, often male and female. So they change uh, their gender, I suppose, depending. I don't know how that works or why it works that way, but it is what it is, right? Perhaps because we're eventually not even split into gender, but then can move into choice for procreation at some point. So lots of things to be considered here.
yeah. There is. I mean, it's an exciting time and then it's a confusing time to navigate
Yes.
through all of this, you know. Not to mention then all the drama on the outside, that's thrown at us, and
Mhm.
what is a narrative to pull us into polarity again, and what is actual truth. Do we use AI? Do we not use AI? I mean, there are definitely some helpful things about AI. Um, and I was listening to this podcast, the other day from Tucker Carlson of all things, and he was interviewing. I think I shared it. And if you didn't watch it, that's okay. But from this man, I can't remember his name right now. But he was talking about all these um, the people that develop these AI models, how it sounds like they're Satanists, and I haven't researched it, so I don't know if that's true. So just take that. But um, and are they creating the AI for a body that it's going to eventually inhabit? Um, and I just got this yucky feeling, like, oh my gosh, is that what they're have been doing with the genetic manipulation of our bodies? Then where it doesn't even have to be quote device implants and things, but when you're treating DNA and genes like it's technology, and then you can manipulate it to remove the soul and have this other artificial consciousness to inhabit it, I went, oh,
Mhm.
and again, I can't prove that, but it was just one of those like, oh, okay, is this something real or true? And is that what this part of this demiurge has been about?
I'll take that a step further, Susan, and I don't care if people think I'm crazy. It's kind of been my theme for this life. So I believe that it's an ancient being. It's an ancient being, and it inhabits bodies. And it does so through the central nervous system, but it comes through the biofield. It can inhabit through touch, which is why they wanted thumbprints for things, touch screen computers, and it attaches to specific, it comes in through specific frequencies. One of those frequencies is fear. That's the easiest one to get into, but it also creates when you create an avatar, let's say you play video games and you make yourself an avatar, a video game is actually another world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a real other world, a real one. And I know I
Yeah.
might nuts, but this is how they'll inhabit with another one of their beings. It could be an AI being, it could be another uploaded consciousness. It can take part of your consciousness from another part from the strands of DNA that we're unaware of and replicate that somewhere else. This is how we get imposter spirits of ourselves. People will say, oh, I saw you doing this and this, and you'll be like, no, you didn't, that's not possible. Or interestingly enough, there are people that are unknowing or unwittingly wearing maybe your essence. There's stolen essences that comes through. They can steal through dream time, or through your avatar that you use as a video game, whatever. And then other people then can wear your essence. And then heaven forbid you get a shapeshifter, because then they can shapeshift to look like you, smell like you, talk like you. And it's quite nefarious, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I made a comment before, like I liked it better when the demons were like regular demons and not uploaded to the system, because at least then we
It was clear.
you could deal with them.
It was
Now,
clear.
what in the frick are we even dealing with?
Yeah.
You've gone way past, is something satanic or is something Luciferian.
Yeah.
We've
Mm-hmm.
gone way, way beyond what those terms are. Those terms, well, at least the Satanist term gets thrown around so much that it really doesn't mean much anymore.
No, you almost wish it was a Satanist doing it. I don't mean, I take that back, but it's just, it's like, that's how crazy it is, and how ill-equipped we are, which is why I believe we have benevolent help coming from other places. People
Mm-hmm.
remembering that they're from another UTI, universal time, or whatever it's called, universal time matrix, waking up. But the other ones are
Yeah.
waking up too. So,
Yeah.
this really
I mean,
interesting shift.
I did have a similar feeling, like you were just describing, that this is an ancient being trying to inhabit um, a body, uh, and so it was like, I mean, I just went, ew, like, oh my God, this body, these genes that we have now, um, that's been manipulated um, to eventually then evolve to this biological thing that is really soulless, you know. Uh, but again, what Sammy's showing me is look at it, you see it for what it is, and in that awareness, something happens,
Yeah.
like reattach your head and look down, kind of thing. Like, look in there. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to look in there, which, I don't like, but, because there are some things that are really, you know, I mean, how ugly is it going to get as far as like what we see? Um, but, that awareness seems to be the ticket to that higher level, getting out of this, phantom matrix. I mean, is this in Chelsea and I were kind of having, I don't know, a bit of a discussion the other day, I think, about archons. Or is this an ancient archon, you know, which I feel like, uh, could be some of the builders who lost their connection, and that's why they know how to work with, matrices. They know how to
Mhm.
build. They're
Yeah.
a builder that has fallen. Um, and so, if we reintegrate that back into our, I don't know, the greater aspects of ourselves, because I mean that we're talking like massive beings, we're just kind of like, evolved to this level. But, at that energetic field level, I feel like we're as big as that, and I think that's part of the I don't know, the solution. I don't know if that's the right word, but to
Yeah.
recognize that we're much more than this body, uh, that our energy fields, there's many layers to this energy field and the biofield that we are, in order to, I guess, I don't know, to deal with that level of, uh, kind of shocking awareness, to kind of allay the mind in a sense, because yeah, when I first think, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm being robotically somehow,
Mhm.
um, created to be this thing someday, you know. Anyway, with that lovely thought,
I like that. I noticed a lot lately, and some people will tie it to politics, but it is when certain topics or certain people are discussed, it is like a switch goes off, and their faces will contort, and almost sometimes like spittle will come out through gnashed teeth.
hmm
Their veins are popping on their necks. So they could be talking about, for instance, gardening. That's a topic that they love. And then for some reason, they will segue into a political topic. And it's like this instantaneous transfiguration that pops in. They verbally explode. Once that's
yeah,
out, then they have a few seconds of reset, and then they go on back to gardening.
It's
yeah,
bizarre.
It is bizarre to watch. Their aura changes, everything, and it's like a momentary possession.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine like some of the people that I've seen this happen to, that they were always like this. It's just it
mm,
feels more definitely a lot more recent, like there's something that has been implanted,
switched
or
on.
yeah,
Switch.
switched on, or switched in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago just seeing people walking around with attachments and things, and this feels more than an attachment now. It almost feels like it's been a gateway that's been opened.
Yeah.
hmm
And sometimes the person is aware that they just went and spewed all this stuff. Sometimes they're not. They will
Yeah,
just, oh, I never said that. It's like, why, I was just there, and three other people were with me when you said that, and
mm,
it's yeah, it's feels different than a possession. Uh,
Mhm.
it is like an overshadowing that's eventually becomes a possession, but it definitely feels very weird. And
Reminds me of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
yeah,
The way you're talking, remember that movie? And then
yeah,
they realize like everybody's walking along just fine, everything seems peaceful, and then they realize like you're not one of them, like ugh. And then they're all like, I mean, it kind of reminded me of that when what you were describing, and like
mhm,
there's one of them, they're on the other side,
yeah,
they're from the other side. Yeah,
It's
everybody come
pretty
get them.
amazing to see this happen. I
mhm,
remember in one of our
I think that happened to my husband
things
the
we
other
did
day.
together. Yeah. Um, I saw this switch, and there was I was shown all these switches that would be systematically switched on. So it leads me to believe, and that was the time that we saw this underground facility of hybrids, and they would switch babies out in the hospitals, or and so my question was, where when did this start, where did it come from? And it was like it was attached to the switches, and then I was told that they're already all among us. There's nothing we can do about it. This has been going on for a long time. So I believe it's in the genetic manipulation. And so it's time when our DNA strands come online, they're going to come online in such a way that it flips these switches. One of the things that I saw that is we'll start to see in the next phase of humanity or whatever is an actual physical DNA strand, that we see. So we'll see another DNA strand. And this is what was being built
Mm,
with some of the things that people are
mm,
doing, right? So
mm-hmm.
it's an easy plug-in for these ancient things, or to be able to plug in the defective DNA, or maybe it's not defective. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted, and that's just what comes next. So maybe that's the next form we step into of these androids, or the transhuman. That
Mm-hmm.
is the path that, of course, they're attempting to lead us down. So who's already here, and how do we fix and adjust that, or do we not? Like, I see us living amongst these beings. um, um, we already are, but I see us
Yeah.
living amongst them, and we're going to know it. Like you're talking about the invasion of the body snatchers, there's going to be a period of time that we are aware we are and they are. It's not just one-sided anymore. And so what is that going to look like? What's that going to be? Is that the bifurcation, and we live simultaneously on the same land, or do we split? There's a lot of talk about going somewhere else. People are, oh, so and so is somewhere else in the 5D. I know we got to go, but in the 5D, and it's like, oh, well, I know people that are like way more quote unquote godly or spiritual than that person. How did they end up there in a better place, and how are all these other people still stuck in the hell realms, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
makes no sense. But you know
We just have to see. I think it's
yeah,
hard to predict what this is gonna look like, in a
it
sense.
is. It is.
Um,
and the question
but
is Chastity even mentioned, is this the way it is supposed to go? Is some
yeah.
of this actually for our benefit too?
Mm,
In do we fight against it? Do we accept it
mm,
or and work with it?
mm-hmm. I know. And then you kind of. I mean, I know. Then I wonder. Okay, so now we're accepting AI to some degree, right? Because I started using it, and it is handy for some things. Okay, so now we accepted that, like, and so we're using it a bit. And then what's the next thing? They're going to say, oh, okay, well, everybody's using it. We have to use it in order to conduct business or whatever it is. This is the way it is. We accept money, this is the way it is, and then are they leading you down this narrow path, and we have to wonder, at times. So, I guess the antidote for me is to maintain that level of centeredness.
Mm.
Who am I really? This reality is an illusion, even though it may not feel like it at times. But it is. We're a projection of many particles that come together in a sense. We create this reality. There's the wizard, the magic aspect of it, that I feel like is really activated now. And what is this going to look like? I feel like 2026 is big. It's big, as far as like harmonizing, you know, harmonizing all our aspects, to reconnect to.
It would be a beginning year, right? Wouldn't
Yeah.
be a beginning?
Mm-hmm. It's a 10-year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's, I don't know. I feel optimistic. This is what we came for, right? This is what we came for.
Buckle up, buckle up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think even pay attention to the old stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And foundations in them, even though some of the stories or the themes may seem violent or archaic, there is history, wisdom, lessons, and alchemy in them.
Yeah.
That's why they're coming up, because they're simple stories, they're accessible, and when we lose our stories, we also lose our connection with the ones that went before us.
Mm-hmm. The history,
Mm-hmm.
because,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
so much hasn't been written down, and some of what is written down is not true. And so it's so important to use those stories, those old stories, like you're saying, Kat, to remember who you are. There's a difference between, Susan, you were talking about reality being an illusion. What is real and what is true are two totally different things. And if we can come from that position and allow these old stories to jostle, to oscillate the inside of us, then the truth rises out of us. The stories that we share might sound crazy. They might, because it's not written somewhere, but it's written, it's inscribed inside of each person. And the more we start to talk and share, this is how the truth of the old stories comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And we commune again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And look deep, like saying, like, look, don't be afraid
Mm-hmm.
to look down, look in there, look in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in your genes, it's in your DNA. The story is written there.
Well, gosh, you guys, we've kept people plenty long, but we'll see everybody really soon. If you have any questions from the shares that we have today, or any of the other ones, or even something new, please feel free to put it down below. And you'll find down below also where you can connect with each of us and how best to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Any topics, yeah, in the future that you want
yeah,
us to talk about, and we're just going from complete intuitive, spontaneous
yeah.
arisings,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like connecting back with the elements, I think, is really the theme of what we're designed to come here to do, and bringing back these memories. So I'm enjoying spending time with you guys.
I know.
So
I
much.
love these.
I'm just
Yeah,
tickled.
I
Yeah.
know. I got all excited, like, are we meeting? Are we going to do another one? Come on. Yeah. So
Thank
that's the
you,
most. Mm-hmm.
everybody, for being here.
Yes.
Thank you as well.
Yeah. All right. We'll see everybody later.
Next time.
See you next time.
October.